Hi, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick video introducing myself to you. I've really enjoyed looking at all your introductions for the first assignment. That's been really cool to see all your different interests. We have 240 students in this class with 69 different majors, so a lot of different perspectives, a lot of energy. Uh, it's going to be a really great class. It's super exciting. As you know, the class has four major areas that we're going to focus on. We're going to start by looking at understanding large language models, kind of from the ground up. You know, a lot of you use ChatGPT or Gemini, and you enter a prompt and you get a response. But the idea here is that we're going to get into the details of how these things work, at least on a conceptual level. But if you don't have a technical background, don't worry. I'm going to explain this in the most accessible way possible. Then we're going to talk about translation and translation at scale, some translation theory, where large language models run into problems and where they might be useful for us. We're going to experiment with AI tools. We may even do a bit of vibe coding. That's where you kind of give instructions to a large language model and it comes up with the code that you can run on your own. That's a lot of fun. I've been doing quite a bit of that over the last year. And then finally, we're going to think about the ethical, cultural, and pedagogical implications of AI. Pedagogical just means what it means for teaching and learning, what it means for the classroom. So have really a long history in computing. I'm 51, and my history with computing and programming goes all the way back to the early 1980s, really at the start of the personal computer revolution. This was the first machine that I learned to program on, if you can believe that, VT100, and I learned BASIC on it at a summer camp at the University of Arkansas all the way back in 1982. And throughout the 80s, I had Commodores and IBMs and 386s and 486s, as well as all the different gaming systems. And I played around with Macs and Amigas and all different kinds of computers. I was a computer nerd. So by the time I got to the University of Arkansas, I'm originally from the state. I enrolled as a computer science um, major all the way back in the early 1990s. But I've got a number of very diverse interests. So I kind of hopped around, spent some time in English and art history, and ended up in cultural anthropology. At the time, the University of Arkansas had a really good Middle East studies program, so I started traveling in the Middle East and learning Arabic. Of course, I always had this real interest in new and emerging technologies, so I kind of applied that to my work in cultural anthropology, thinking about new and emerging technologies in the Middle East. And I ended up writing a master's thesis on hacker culture and the Al-Aqsa Intifada, which was a conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians in the early 2000s. Again, I've been traveling in the Middle East since the 1990s. This is a picture of my wife and I last year on a beach in Oman. Um, I've been co-director of VT Dubai. We just took a group of 17 students to the United Arab Emirates last year. I've spent time in Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, the UAE, Oman, and Morocco. And I teach a lot of classes for the Arabic program here in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages and Literatures, including war and Arab culture. I teach another large section on Arab culture and civilization, which is a lot of fun. And a lot of my research work has been in and around the Middle East. In the early 2000s, I spent time at MIT. So my work on hacker culture in the Middle East led me to MIT, where I was doing work on robotics and artificial intelligence. A lot of the work that we did was really influential in the early years of thinking about human-robot interaction. And I really dug deep into the history and development of artificial intelligence, and MIT was a great place to do that. I worked with people from the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, that's pictured here, MIT Media Lab, and other labs and centers. It was deep into the culture when I was there in Cambridge, Massachusetts. If you want to read about this research, there are a number of journal articles that I was part of a team where we wrote about our research and published it. But really, the best source uh, to do a deep dive into the kind of material that I was working with in the early 2000s is Sherry Turkle's 2011 book, Alone Together. And one of the main focuses of that research was what happens when face-to-face conversation is replaced by new forms of technologically mediated communication. Even back in the early 2000s, we were getting really worried about the kind of psychological impacts that social media would have on young people. So even 20 years ago, we saw what's really coming to the fore now and throughout the late 20 teens. So I came to Blacksburg in 2013 and have been teaching in Virginia Tech's Arabic program for more than a decade. I also serve as assistant chair of the Department of Modern and Classic Languages and Literatures, where I do recruiting. I'm kind of the data nerd for the department as well. I do a lot of the enrollment analysis and other duties. Outside of work, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did some mixed martial arts in the past. I run, watch YouTube videos, spend time with my wife and my cat. Very outdoorsy, um, going all the way back to when I was younger. So I have this background in AI and robotics, and I'm also a literary translator. This is a book that my wife and I translated a few years back from an Omani novelist. So when the opportunity came to create and teach this course, I just jumped at the chance. It seemed like a perfect way to bring my interests together. And really, since the emergence of large language models into the public consciousness over the past few years, I've worked to develop a really strong understanding of how these technologies function and what they can do. And over the past year, I've also built about a dozen AI-based tools, some of which you'll see in this class, which include a translation engine that can do really long form translation, and an application that collects, translates, maps, and analyzes political propaganda from around the world. And I'm working with a group of people in a diplomacy lab course to further develop that application. So that's me. If you want to talk to me in person, you can come to my office hours. You can let me know. Maybe when you're coming, we can schedule an appointment as well. And you can always write me an email. I'm always interested to talk to students. So if you need any help, you have any questions, comments, concerns, just let me know. I'm always here. I'm usually in my office for most of the day on Monday and Wednesday, at least from like 9 until 2 or so. So I'm around and I have some availability, but I'm really quite busy. Um, AI has really become a hot topic, and because I have some background in this, I'm kind of been in demand over the past year. So, that's both good and bad. All right. Well, I will see you all soon. Talk to you soon. I'll see you in the comment section. Until then, have a great day.